All right, everybody. Hey, it's Thursday. It's September 14th already. And so thanks for coming for our team training. And thought we would talk tonight about the topic of disappointment. Because, I think really with anything in life, we probably experience disappointment. But as business owners and entrepreneurs and in the nature of what we do, I know that I personally have suffered disappointment. I think that probably everybody on this call, maybe nod your head or blink if you've ever had any disappointment related to health coaching. Yeah. Yeah. So before we get really too far into it, I really wanted to hear from you just to make sure I kind of hit on it. Like maybe you're going through something right now, or maybe something shows up a lot for you, but where would you say your biggest challenges are, where do you think you feel disappointment the most, or where are you now?
This is Melissa, and Julie and I were just talking about this today, and I feel like mine is expected disappointment. Like right now I'm doing good, but I'm fearful that I've kind of hit my quota, and I'm going to get disappointed when all these people transition and then I'm going to have no one.
Okay, so you're having some feelings of scarcity, like there's nobody else out. Okay.
Well, there obviously is, but I feel like in my world every day I'm around the same people all the time. And so I'm just thinking in my head, well, I guess this is as good as it gets. And so it's anxiety about disappointment.
Yeah, and I can get that. And then it's almost like you're hanging on, like you don't want somebody to cancel or whatever, because it's like every order counts, right? Everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. So thanks for sharing.
I'll say, Melissa, this is Beth. I feel the exact same way, and I've felt that way in the past. And just connect with Julie, and she'll give you some good hints on how to get out there and meet some more people and put yourself out there some more. It is scary, but you got to do it.
Thanks, Beth.
I'm going to networking meetings. I never thought in the world I would ever do that, but I love it now. I've got a ladies group that I meet with every Tuesday morning, and I love them.
Aren't you in like 2 groups, Beth?
I'm in 2 groups, but yeah, I really like the ladies group.
So yeah, totally out of your comfort zone, but we had just talked about different ways to meet other people and connect with other people that know more people so good. Good. Anybody else?
I tend to fear. I think my thing is like I have a demon running at me before before it's even there. I'm imagining that it's going to be bad, or that someone's going to say no, or like I think I'm preparing myself for the negative instead of expecting the positive, which I know what we're supposed to be doing is expecting people to want this and expecting people to be like, but I think I tend to I can start out that way, but after I get 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, people saying, no, not interested, after a while that it plays on my head. And so then I start getting ready for it before it comes. And I think then I'm creating the problem or creating the situation. So I'm trying to get out of my own way, as always.
Yeah, I've definitely had that situation. I know I shared with you, Debbie. Personally, it doesn't take much sometimes, especially when we're new, to kind of rattle us a little bit. And I was a couple years into it, and so all of a sudden I went through I got, a lot of my business comes to me as referrals. So by the time that people call me, usually it's a yes. And so it was really interesting because I went through this slew of people that were saying no, and the reason was because of the meal replacements, the fuelings. And all of a sudden I got it in my head that oh my gosh, people don't want to eat fuelings. And so then I would get on my next call and almost be anticipating they're not going to want to eat fuelings. And guess what? They didn't want them. It was it was projecting out. And then finally, I don't know really what happened, but at some point I had this revelation, and I was like, fuelings are the only way people actually lose weight. I mean, how many people do you know? I mean, that try to lose weight other ways and it doesn't work. It worked for me. It worked for every coach on this call. I mean, it works for every client that signs up. Why am I letting their opinion influence me, what I know works? But it's so easy to let it get in our head and get those wheels turning and turn it into something bigger than it probably really is. Yeah. Anybody else? I don't want to make this not a pity party. We're not staying here. We're going to get out.
No, I'm definitely feeling the same way. I just feel like I'm working really hard. And I feel like I think I have the right language and I think I'm doing the right things. And I'm disappointed. I thought you set this whole thing up tonight for me. Yeah,
no, surprise, we're all here. Disappointed.
Yeah, just I'm happy to be here to listen to what everybody else has to say, hoping to learn something.
All right, good. Well, I'm gonna mute just for a few minutes for just to cut out any background noise, and then but feel free to unmute, like if you want to stop me or go like I got a question about that, and then we're also gonna have Julie and Susan are gonna help out too. So give me 1 second. So yeah, the reality is, there's a couple of things. We are business owners, right? And all of us, most of us, I would say on this call, being a business owner, being in charge of your own future, being responsible for your own results in this arena, it's something new for all of us, right? It's nothing we've ever done before. So if you read anything about entrepreneurship and people who do their own business, regardless of what it is, there's disappointment. There's more failures than successes. There's more, people failing their way to success. There's a lot of disappointment. There's a lot of people that say no. And everybody you see, even within our own organization, has experienced disappointment on some level. And if they're getting a lot more yeses, they've also gotten a lot more no's. It's just we don't know that piece of the equation. We only see the highlights or what really looks to be going well. But I do know, from, even conversations with that Dr. A has shared, I've had dinner with Dan Bell before, and, they had visions for this company. They had visions that it would have been far beyond where it is, when they set this course and, before they rebranded, there was a lot of frustration on their part. They did all sorts of dog and pony shows around the country trying to generate and get more clients and more coaches and get momentum, and it wasn't happening. But I think the one thing to keep in mind is that, Dr. A never lost sight of his vision. It always comes down to your vision and what do you really see and what do you want? What kind of legacy do you want to live and what kind of impact do you have to live? And I think if we relate it to other things in our life, I would say, I've had jobs where there were times I had to do things I didn't want to do, or I got passed for a promotion, or I was disappointed because something didn't go the way I wanted. I don't think we're immune to disappointment in any area of our life. Parenting, I certainly didn't win any Mother of the Year awards, but not for lack of trying. And so I think that we always face disappointment, but I think with what we do and with entrepreneurship, it's hard because it's almost like we're thinking, it's like, we don't have to do this, right? So then that's always going to be playing in your head is like, oh, like, is it worth it? And I certainly have my disappointments. I think what happens is over time, we do get better at resilience from them. And so I think that the quicker we can start to recognize our own behaviors, our own typical responses, and then be able to work through that to get back out of it, that's where the magic happens. Because I think the disappointments are going to be inevitable. And I've had huge disappointments and really big struggles. I was sharing something with Julie today. It was like a year ago. I was at a leadership conference and it was at Sundance. And those are tough conferences. It's like the top 300 people and in the company. And, I meet a girl. I'm like, hey, where are you from? And, 9 months, she's a global. I'm like, what? Like, how about you? I'm like, 6 years, and not there. So you can start to rattle your confidence. And then at that conference that we were really being tested and really pushed, because if you want to grow, I think at any level in this company, if you want to grow, the fact is we're probably gonna have to look in the mirror and realize we're probably not doing some things that we know we need to be doing, right? So we're gonna be buttoned up against, all right, if I want to grow, do I want to go there? Do I want to go to that ugly place and go through that, And so I had all kinds of crazy stuff going on in my head. But one thing I had realized was that I had lost touch with my mentorship. Things have been going really, really well for a while, and I had let go of my weekly mentoring calls with Susan Palace, and she's assuming everything's going great. And then I kind of started getting caught up in a negative trail in my head, and she had no idea. And it was just a few conversations with her. We were able to reframe things. I was able to take those next steps and get through it. But it happens at every level of the organization. So I hope that helps. I mean, at anything, it's sometimes we have to step back and go, okay, this is good. Like, I just have to figure this out and move forward. So I was kind of looking at it with our business, and I think that the different areas of disappointment, I mean, our roles are relatively simple. We acquire clients, we support clients, we sponsor coaches if we want to do that, and we support coaches. But within those, I think the most common disappointments, we get a lot of no's, right, from people who aren't interested in the program, or maybe you get some negative from somebody about, the cost of the program or whatever. So that can get in our head, or we, be playing into it if we feel like we're in action and people are not saying yes. On the support side, I think that how often do we run into it where we want it more than they do? They like the idea, they like the idea of getting healthy, and then they're faced with the reality of it, and it's like, oh wow, okay, I didn't realize that's what it was going to require of me. And I mean, honestly, I would say that now that I'm business coaching with coaches, I'd say the same thing happens. It's like we look at it, we're like, ooh, I like the idea of making $3,000 a month, or I like the idea of working my way out of this job. But then when we're faced with the reality of what does it really take, then we're forced, like, wow, okay, this is going to be a little bit more than I thought it was. And it's just a matter of what do you want to do with that? We can go into retreat mode and hide from it, or we can use it as an opportunity to grow. And we'll talk about what that can look like. And so the same thing happens with health coach sponsorship. We can have that same scarcity mindset that, oh, nobody's interested, I don't have any candidates. Or even coaches that come on board that, maybe they don't move at the pace that they said that of what they wanted, right? And all of that. So it very much parallels the client portion. And I think a lot has to do with the nature of our work, right? Like, I love, Susan Palace used to say to me, it'd be so easy if we just sold lipstick, right? Be like, hey, that's a pretty color, you should get that. And then you're done, right? You sold them the lipstick, you're done. But with us, we're asking people to change their lives. We're asking people to change their habits. So for some, it's even hard to get them to even say yes to that to begin with, to the program, or then when they get in, it's a struggle with that. So I think at the end of the day, the reason we get disappointed, and maybe Linda alluded to it a little bit, is we usually get disappointed because we get disappointed about how does it affect us, right? So people are saying no, which means we're not acquiring clients, which means we may not make the income we want or make the rank we want, right? So it all comes back down to our expectations and what we want. So I get it. It's real. So it becomes a matter of what do we do with it. And it's also very difficult to not compare to what might be happening in this business. And we see people get on the leadership call and people that skyrocket to these levels. But the reality is that's so rare. If you look at the number of presidential directors we have, or even the number of globals we have, in comparison to the number of coaches we have, it's so rare. But it's so hard not to look at that and we start to question ourselves and start to think, well, or at least I do this, what's wrong with me, right? Like, why, what's wrong with me? And it doesn't necessarily mean that anything's wrong with you. It just maybe means there's a skill or an action or a concept. So Julie, do you want to step in? Because you had kind of gone through a period of wanting to grow and going through some trainings to grow, and then it kind of actually set you back a bit.
Yeah, it kind of is very similar to Dee's journey. I think it started probably last year, right before convention. The company had done a bunch of different, I think they were Saturday morning trainings, not to make you guys scared about Saturday morning trainings starting, but it was designed to help anybody that wanted to grow, to learn how to duplicate, how to help more clients, how to have more coaches. And so the more I listened to those, the more I felt myself starting to the best way to describe it is I felt like I was trying to put myself in a box of what the company wanted you to look like or what you needed to do to be the next leader. But it wasn't really comfortable to me. And so I started, like, I think that came across in all of my conversations. And like Dee said, if you're projecting that out, guess what? They're not going to want to do our program because they're going to hear your fear in the phone, or they're not going to hear your excitement. So it really did start to put me in this downward spiral of, I just felt sort of negative and I was just not really having fun. And that was when I kind of took a step back and I was like, why am I doing this? And I told Dee on one of our Thursday calls when we were catching up, I said, Dee, I'm not having fun. Something is wrong. And so we talked through it. And she actually, I think, passed it on to Susan Palace. And I think that afternoon my phone rang and Susan called me and she said, what is wrong? Kind of did a little digging with me. And she said, Julie, just be yourself. Just do you, be you, have fun with it, and don't worry. And it was like she gave me the permission to not have to put myself in a box of what I felt like I should be versus just being me and using the tools we have. So it gave me back the freedom of like, yeah, this is my baby. This is why I do this. I love this. And so it was neat. The other day I had a call with a girl I've known for a couple of years, and she's struggling with her weight and struggling in a lot of areas of life. And we talked about coaching. We talked about the program. We talked about all of it. And I kind of explained the program. She goes, Julie, I can tell you are so excited about this. And it's probably not the right time for her to be a client or a coach. She's not at the right place, but it was just neat to hear her say that to me. Like, I can tell you're excited. So people can hear your excitement or they can hear your fear. So if you have a scarcity, like if that's your fear of like, I'm not going to have enough clients, I'm not going to have enough, don't worry. There are so many people that need help. You're just finding the ones that want the help. So you can't look at it as a no, like we always say, it's just a not now. Just keep planting the seeds, just keep talking. And that's what I worked through and figured out through my struggle. It's okay. Just keep going. Don't worry about the ones that are not ready yet or saying no right now. Just keep going.
Yeah, I don't even know I don't think I was trying to Google it and see if there was anything to it, but something about that law of attraction, that there is so much to it. They can be concepts in our head, or when we get discouraged or we get negative, it radiates out. You could say the same thing that you say to every pre-client in a call, go through that same health assessment. But for whatever reason, I've seen it happen to myself and I've seen it with coaches. And a lot of times it seems like if we get into a scarcity mindset, or like we feel so desperate, like we need this, like it's like I've seen coaches set a goal for a new rank and then all of a sudden like nothing's happening. And it's like, it's subliminal. I don't even know what it is, but we like almost block ourselves and we stop really having fun or stop thinking about why am I doing this? And it becomes more about, I really need this client, or I really need this coach to perform at this level, or I really need something, versus who can I help? Who's out there? Who needs my help today? And it's just two different things. And when we get tense and we get so attached to it, it just radiates out. And so that was obvious, Julie, with you, if you were feeling like, they want me to be this person or do things this one way, and that's not me. It was just coming out. So using your mentorship and kind of going back to the basics or whatever, you started having fun with it again.
And I think also it was right before convention. And so then in July, we all got back together for convention. And I know after that, it just set me on a totally different course. And so it also reinforces just being together and the importance of using each other and leaning on each other. Because I think our natural tendency is to isolate ourselves, but that's really going to make it worse. So if you can just reach out and, we're all here in the same thing together. We're all here because we love it. Reach out and count on each other, because it can help big time.
Well, it reinforces that level of community, right? We talk about it with our clients, right? We know when our clients disappear and they're not talking to us, right? I know if a coach, is not showing up for their mentoring calls, I know what's going on. It's like things aren't going well. And we know that when our, clients don't want to talk to us, but that's really when we do need to be together. And, community, being on, these kind of calls, attending any event you can, any live event. I think we just need that constant energy. I'm a big fan of Darren Hardy, who is a motivational speaker, and for entrepreneurs, he does a little thing called Darren Daily. I listen to it all the time because it just helps me with that tape in my head, just keeping the positive spin on things, and that, that I need to take ownership. So Julie was right. I mean, I think typical responses are we tend to withdraw, right? We tend to isolate. When we withdraw, we tend to slow our actions down at the same time. Our action slows down. We start pulling that momentum. We might be blaming. It's real easy for me. I'll look at my clients like, oh my God, like nobody's following the program. Nobody's, engaging. And it's real easy to start blaming, but then maybe I need to look inward and go, okay, what's going on here? Like, am I taking clients that really aren't ready for the program yet? Is there something that I could be doing differently? Is there a different way I could introduce these other things to them? Not that I'm doing anything bad, but it's just being curious about it. Like, okay, well, what, like that just seems like a common thread. Like what's going on there? But it's real easy to blame, And that's called, there's 2 leadership principles that the company has, 2 of like 7, but one of them is that we play above the line and we take responsibility. So when things are not going well, just imagine this imaginary line. Below the line are things like anger, blame, thinking in a scarcity mindset, or whatever. And then above the line is, I'm responsible for this. I'm responsible for my future actions. So, maybe I need to talk to my business coach. Maybe I need to just be talking to more people. Maybe if I'm really honest, I need to join a book club. I mean, I was talking to Nicole DeWard. She just decided to start her own book club just as a way to meet and interact with more people. Not that they're going to become clients, but because they know people that she doesn't know, and just to get herself into a new arena. So she put something on Facebook and she's like, I'm going to read this, it's kind of a book about the art of saying no to balancing your time. And she's like, I'm going to read this book. Does anybody want to do a book club with me? And she had 7 people say yes. So she just created this new little circle for herself. So sometimes it's just getting outside the box, or like Beth said, joining a networking group. I know Susan has thought about that. So it's just shaking things up. So it's just, again, taking responsibility. The other one is, is that the leadership principle is we seek growth and the obstacle is the way. And I will tell you that is a true statement. And what that really means is that if we're having trouble in a certain area, we just need to lean into that and figure out what's going on. And again, it usually takes having an objective person, a mentorship, somebody working with you, because it usually comes down to one of the 3 things. If we're struggling in our business somewhere, there might be a skill, right? There might be a skill that we haven't quite mastered yet, like maybe in the area of health coach sponsorship. Maybe we just need to work on that skill and how we talk to people about it. Or it might be action. And action, when I talked about that, what I see a lot of times is that, especially if we go to an event or a convention, is that we get really high hopes, set our goals really high. We come out of convention and we have all this action, and then things don't really go well, right? We hit that first disappointment or that first setback, or people say no, and then we stop the action and we retreat. And what works in this business, we get our wins. It's in the millimeters, right? Instead of trying to do the yardstick and jump to the end of the yardstick, it's the millimeters. And it's 1 call a day, 1 share a day, 1 conversation on Facebook. But instead we come out with 5 and, for 5 days, and then nothing comes of it. We're like, oh, well, but it's the consistency of it. So, and then I think Julie, you might've said like Dan Valentine, he went presidential in a year, but he made a hundreds list every single month, had 100 conversations every single month. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying I'm not going to do that. I'm just saying the reality is I am not having 100 conversations. So no surprise, I'm not presidential, right? I can't compare myself because I am not in the same level of action whatsoever. So it's skill, but then the concepts, the concept thing is a big one. And sometimes, usually we don't even realize it's going on in our head. So my advice would be, when we get into these areas, if we're experiencing discouragement, is number 1, talk to your mentor about it, work through. When Julie and I had our conversation, I was like, you know what, I think this maybe even needs an even more objective perspective. Let me, team coaching, let me call in Susan. Let Susan have a conversation. Maybe she can see something, or help unpack something I haven't been able to yet. So so I think that's a big one. And self-development. I can recommend a few books if you want around that. Susan Geisling, do you want to share a little bit about, you've definitely had your peaks and valleys like all of us through the years. Oops, I'll let you unmute.
Okay.
Kind of what's helped.
Absolutely. All of that has helped. And there are times when I have all three that are in the way: skills, concepts, and actions. I don't know if I have the skill, I have a concept that's getting in my way, and then I get paralyzed. And, my advice is definitely what Dee just said, is talk to your mentor coach for sure. And then when you do talk to your mentor coach, take notes, write those notes down. You may have little index cards where you can put up where you're looking at every day, because your mentor coach will give you these little key phrases or words that will trigger you to remember your conversation, to kind of reframe how you look at something, or where you can go to acquire the skill, or what action steps you need to take. I've gone through all three of those, and sometimes they're all together, and sometimes, I deal with a concept, then I deal with an action, whatever. And a lot of times, sometimes I'll just let other things in my personal life get in my way. And it's realizing that, these obstacles that come up, and it can be anything. Like in my particular instance, it was the hurricane. My kids live in Florida. So, I had a paralyzing weekend where I was so focused on that. And so I had to kind of give myself a grace period too, that when you're dealing with something that's like that pulls you off your focus on your business, give yourself a grace period to realize, okay, now it's time to get back on track. But the other thing that's been really helpful for me has been the personal growth area. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and but the personal growth, the books that we're reading, Dee's got a great book club for all of us that we meet every other month. We have our next meeting on the 21st. Mm-hmm. And but you read a book every other month. I mean, that's not that hard. But I have found that just doing that has been very helpful for up here, the concepts, just how I look at things, how I reframe things, and gets me thinking differently on situations like, well, this client just quit, blah, 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 or I can't get this coach to come to anything, blah, blah. Those little things that kind of eat at you and you're thinking, what am I doing wrong? These things help you to rethink that so that you're in a creative mindset, in a positive mindset, and you don't defeat yourself. So, definitely take notes, go to the personal growth area. And I'm not just talking about the skills that Optavia has for us and growing skills as a coach, but personally too. This book club that she started, highly recommend it. I definitely recommend getting involved. So that would be that's what I found to be helpful for me.
Yeah, thank you. I think all of that is, and the other thing is Ron Gels has reminded me of this, is, number one, we always want to remember why we're doing this, right? We all believe in this program. We know it helps people. If you get no's, I mean, I feel sorry for them, right? They're missing out, right? We know what we have. And what we don't want to lose sight of is sometimes we forget our wins, right? So I know every single one of us has a client we're really proud of that is, this program and being alongside them has changed their life. I mean, all of you on the call, it changed our lives. So we have to remember why we're doing it, and sometimes coming back to the why, and what do we want? What is our ultimate goal? And like I said, and it tends to be with an entrepreneurship that we sometimes want to, like Linda said, like, oh, I'm working really hard. Like, golly, what the, is it worth it? But that win is right there. The next win is around the corner. And Ron described it well. He said, it's real easy. Like if, let's say, like there's an event coming up and, you invited 14 people and only one comes. It's real easy to look at that and go, well, golly, 13 people don't want to come, but why not celebrate the one who did? Focus on the one who did. Not, it's a win. That might change their world. And that will propel to something else. So very good. I hope this is helpful. We're out of time. I think we could probably talk for weeks on this topic, you know. But the quick thing is, I mean, the last book we read in our book club, it was called Why Wait to Be Great, but they had a really great thing in there, and she called it The Pit. And when we feel disappointed, you know, it's real easy to go into a place called the pit and feel sorry for ourselves. And the key is, you know, you can go there, but you got about 30 seconds in the pit, you know, and it's a good idea to get out because things can escalate when we get down there. And get out. She has a thing called Flip Man, flip it into a positive. And, you know, if something's not going well, that's just feedback. That's just feedback that something needs to change in your world. So I hope that's helpful, and would love your feedback on this afterwards. Maybe let me know after, or post your comments when I post the recording. Couple quick things at 9 p.m. tonight for new health coaches. There is a optional training if you want to be on that. Susan Pallas posted details on that. Remember, as a health coach, we offer a lot. You don't have to attend it all, but it's there if you want it. And Dan Bell, Presidential Director, is doing a 6-week boot camp for all health coaches, anybody who wants to be successful in this business, really with the goal of simplifying the business with us. And that starts this Saturday, and I'll post the details on that tomorrow, the links, and it will be recorded if you can't be on. And if you're going to watch the recording, I do recommend that you just schedule in your calendar when you're going to do that. Julie, you have your Charlotte event this weekend. So Julie, Melissa, like the Charlotte team has started having monthly gatherings, working on building their community. So is it the third Saturday of every month?
Yep, exactly. So it's from 11 to 12 on Saturday.
Awesome. So if you have clients in that area or whatever, it could be something you do on your own too. Just something to think about is, you know, if you want, that can be something. You don't have to, but it's just a way to start to build your business. And then something coming up, you might be newer with our company. Several years ago, they started something called National Optimal Health Day. And it really is a day, really that our company came up with, but it's really around supporting community and spreading the word about what's possible with health. And so what the company really wants is that we do community events around the country. It can look like a lot of different things. I know in Atlanta, we've had walks and hikes together. We've had community events at a specific location. It's Wednesday, September 27th, so it's a little less than 2 weeks away. We are going to work on something in the Atlanta area, but something you can do things virtually. You can do it, you don't have to do anything, but it can be a nice thing to maybe be a part of. So just wanted to put that out there. That's there, and I'm happy to brainstorm ideas with you. But we're at a little past 8:30, so I want to let you guys go. I know you're busy. Thanks for making time. Hope it was helpful. Thanks for all you guys do.